Thank you, everybody, for coming. We will continue to have people dropping in while Maureen is talking. That is okay. You're welcome to show your video, yourself, so Maureen can actually be talking to people instead of talking to letters and names. The chat will be disabled. I mean, you will be put on mute, and the chat will be left open for Maureen to hear anything that you wanted to say. Please give Maureen a warm welcome. Please welcome Maureen Zappola, Overcome Imposter Syndrome.
Woohoo! Hey, thank you. All right, I just want to see. All right, there we go. I'm going to spotlight myself, make it a little easier to see me and everything else. So I know that we tried to do this once before, and I opened that session with a story, and I'm going to give a very abbreviated version of that story for the people that have already heard it, and because I have found that it takes too much time to tell the story. My background is engineering, and I know people are like, really? You're an engineer? Yeah, actually, I'm a former rocket scientist from NASA. Ooh, I know. Wow, that sounds really cool. It just means that when I do something stupid and someone says, what are you, a rocket scientist? Yeah, I can say I am. So there goes that theory. But the story takes us all back to 1983, when I was fresh out of college. I am older than I look. I know, if you're calculating it, yes, I am 60 years old. I was a brand new engineer, fresh out of college, at my first big girl job as a propulsion researcher at NASA in Cleveland, just outside at the NASA Lewis Research Center, just outside of Cleveland. I was assigned as a project engineer in the propulsion systems lab, which is a jet engine research facility. Now, for me, it was a dream job. I'm an aeronautics and an aviation fan, and I was so excited to not just work at NASA, but to work specifically in this jet engine test facility. But like many of you on your first day of a new job, I was terrified. I was excited for sure, but I was really scared. I mean, this was NASA. Oh my gosh, you know, the place where all the smart people hang out. But I also knew it was something it was a dream of mine. Now, my first assignment in PSL as a project engineer was simple. I just had to observe the crew conducting an engine test. How hard's that, right? Show up, shut up, don't screw up. I could do this, right? Well, I walked into the control room, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. It was magical. It looked like any other control room that you've probably seen, you know, walls with screens, TV screens and monitors, and clipboards, people on headsets and computer terminals all around. And I was completely intimidated. There were probably 15, 18 people in the room. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? I was thinking, what was NASA thinking when they hired me? Did they not know that I was not a straight A student? Did they not look at my transcript? Surely they made a mistake in hiring me. Oh, wait a minute. I know why. I bet it's because I'm a woman. So walking into my dream job, not only was I filled with this, oh my gosh, this is a new job, it's scary, it's new, it's unfamiliar. Not only was I filled with that tension, but I was burdened with carrying an entire gender. I mean, can you imagine how overwhelmed I felt? But I had a job to do, and I walked into that room, and I saw one empty chair in the back of the room. So I slithered my way into the chair, into that corner, sat myself in the chair, and began to do my job. Now, I had no clue what was going on. How could I? I was brand new. But it was painfully obvious to me that I was the least informed, least qualified, least skilled person in the room. And I just wanted to stay invisible. Now, the mood in the room was really intense. This program, this engine test they were doing was a pretty important program. It had high visibility within the agency. There was a lot riding on it. The people in the room were the movers and the shakers in the aeronautics industry. And I just sat there and I watched. And then we all heard this noise. Here, 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 here. From that back corner, I managed to humiliate myself my first day as an engineer in the propulsion systems lab. 15 heads snapped in my direction. And it was almost as if I could hear every one of them think, who's she? Who let her in? She doesn't belong here. She is not one of us. Now, I tell that story often, not because it's an embarrassing story about getting the hiccups. I mean, we all get the hiccups, right? Every one of us gets them in weird places at weird times, and they, the ones that just keep rolling on and on and on. The story is not about the hiccups, but it's a metaphor. The hiccups are a metaphor for the imposter syndrome, because when I speak about this topic, and I speak frequently about this topic, I'm usually talking just like to this group, people that are accomplished, visionary, into self-improvement. They are respected, educated, degreed, credentialed. They have a long list of accomplishments and accolades, and people respect and almost revere them. Yet, so many of them feel like they are a hiccup away from somebody saying, what are you doing here? You don't belong. That's the imposter syndrome. The imposter syndrome is this irrational fear, this irrational thought process that despite a long list of accomplishments, achievements, certifications, degrees, credentials, awards, titles, long history of success, you look at it and you say, yeah, but it's really not accurate. I somehow have managed to pull the wool over everybody's eyes. I'm not really as good as my resume says I am. And truth be told, I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing. And if they only knew, I would be found out as a fraud. The imposter syndrome is an irrational thought pattern, because the reality is the data is truthful. The data doesn't lie. You got a degree, you got a promotion, you did the work. But yet there's a disconnect between how you see the data and what you think about the data. And then that, of course, translates into what you do about the data. You see, what happens with people with imposter syndrome is that not only do they feel like an imposter, they live with this constant tension, this constant fear of, is today the day they're going to find out? They're almost as if they're trying desperately to stay one step ahead of what's called the no talent police, the ones that are going to come and knock on your door and say, no, you're not qualified for that job that you have. Now, when I speak to Toastmasters, I love this about Toastmasters. Toastmasters, and I'm sure you guys would agree, such a safe place to fail, right? I mean, really, where else can you fail? Where else can you fall flat on your face and people applaud as you go? And then reach down and pull you back up, dust you off, put you on your way. You see, Toastmasters, not just for communication and giving speeches and taking on leadership roles, but it is a safe place to push your envelope, push your limits, push those limiting thoughts of how you see yourself as not qualified for the position that you have. Now, let me ask you a couple of questions, and here's where I want to put, I want you guys to answer this yes or no in the chat, but here's how we're going to do it. I'm not going to have you just write the answer in the chat and hit send. I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to have you write the answer in chat, but don't hit send. Okay. And then I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1. When I get to 1, then everybody will hit send because it's called chat bombing. I want to chat bomb. I want to see everybody's answer at the same time. Now, what I want to do, I want to see if I can get to. Okay, let's see if I can get to the chat. Chat. There we go. Okay, now I'm ready. I can see the chat. Okay, so have you ever in your Toastmaster journey, have you ever felt like you were in over your head with an assignment? Now, don't hit send, just write yes or no. Alrighty. When I count to 1, when I count down from 3, I'm going to count down to 1. Then you can hit send. 3, 2, 1. Ah, look at that. Is that not amazing? We have one person who says no, a couple of people that say no, but overall, overwhelmingly, when we get into Toastmasters, sometimes we feel in over our heads. Now, there's a specific reason for this. Okay, now, and I'm going to tell you what it is in a second. I want you to write in the chat what your professional background is. Doctor, lawyer, physician, homemaker, whatever it is that that is your specialty. I want you to write that in the chat, and I'm not going to count down. I just want to kind of see it come up here. So let's tell us what your background is. Library manager, good. Entrepreneur, waitress, RN, property manager, engineer, executive administrator, assistant, food service director, bank manager, and I think a consultant, financial services, bank manager and bank manager. Okay, great. Now, the reason I had you guys write that is because all of those skills, all of those job titles, drastically different from Toastmasters. Now, the reason Toastmasters feel this, oh my gosh, I'm in over my head, is this, and this is critical about imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome screams the loudest in times of change and transition. So if you are comfortable in your career, in your chosen vocation, in your job, you're a bank manager, an RN, an entrepreneur, a nurse, or you're in digital marketing, food service director. If you are comfortable in there, you have a measure of credibility and expertise. And then all of a sudden you join Toastmasters. And now you're doing things like getting up in front of people and giving speeches, or watching a speech and timing it simultaneously, which honestly sometimes I think is the hardest job in Toastmasters. The role of timer, to me, there's just so much pressure. It's like, I've got to get it right, but I really want to listen. There's this constant tension. You're called on to open a meeting, keep a meeting flowing, keep it on schedule. You are called to do an evaluation. Oh my gosh, you want to be nice and accurate, but you also want to help that person. And if you feel like you're evaluating somebody who you perceive to be at a higher skill level, you feel like, oh, what am I going to say? There's nothing I can offer. And so what do we hear? Well, I couldn't think of anything to say, or you get a whitewashed evaluation. I mean, my point is, what you are trained for in your professional world is quite different from what we do in Toastmasters. Therefore, as you transition into a role in Toastmasters, you feel or you hear the voice of the imposter that says, oh, you're not qualified for that. You're not trained for that. You will not succeed at that. Why bother? Now, we're going to do another Zoom bomb. I'm sorry, not Zoom bomb. No, we're not going to do Zoom bomb. Chat bomb. We're going to do another chat bomb question. I want to know, yes or no, have you ever turned, in Toastmasters, Have you ever turned down a speaking opportunity because you thought you could not be ready in time? All righty. Yes or no? Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Awesome. This is really good. We're about split, half and half. Excellent. Far too often, I see a lot of people say, oh no, I need more time. I can't be ready. I know I'm scheduled to, but I didn't have time. So I don't want to, I'm not ready. Okay, folks, that's kind of the imposter voice speaking to you, because here's again, back to the reality of Toastmasters. I love Toastmasters. I've been in it for years. It is just Toastmasters. I mean, really, we're not, the stability of the free world is not in the balance. So why not just take a risk? Why not give a manual speech or a project speech, the very best that you can? I mean, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be perfect, but why step away from the opportunity to deliver a speech just because you think you're not prepared enough? You see, the person with imposter syndrome feels they have to prepare to a level of excellence that is almost unattainable. Where what you miss, though, is that there's so much more in the journey of trying something, going back, trying something, going back, trying something, instead of laboring to make it perfect. That pursuing of perfection is a symptom of imposter syndrome. So, okay, I am going to go and see, I'm going to share my screen here. So I'm going to go back up here, share my screen. All righty, I'm going to get to. Uh-oh, I hope this works. I just got a message that I shouldn't have. Okay, now lest you think I made up that story about the control room at PSL, I did not. There I am, all the way over in the right-hand corner. You might notice something else about all these people. Yes, the pressure of holding up the gender part about me being the only girl. Yeah, I was the only girl in a group of about, there were probably about 50 men in the team. Now, here's the cool thing. When I uttered that hiccup heard around the world, it was back in 1984. I was so humiliated. I just wanted to die. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me in. You know how that feeling is. But I didn't, and I couldn't. So I stayed there. I stayed there in the control room, and I eventually became the director of this jet engine complex. I rose to become the facility manager of the propulsion systems lab. Now, and that journey took me about, I don't know, 8 years or so. And as I went through that journey, at every step, every time I made a change, whether it was a new project, a new level of responsibility, certainly when I stepped into the management position to run the facility, as we just talked about before, it's a time of change, a time of transition. And oh my gosh, that imposter voice that was bellowing inside of my head, you can't do this. You're just not qualified. But over the years, I have developed a set of strategies to turn down the volume of that voice. And these strategies, I'm telling you folks, they work here in Toastmasters because it is such a safe place to fail and to try and to succeed. It will have such a colossal impact for you as you go out into your real world. You know, Toastmasters, we live in a bubble. I call it it's a happy, fuzzy, furry, comfy bubble where everybody applauds and is nice to each other. I call it the club bubble or the clubble. When we get out of the clubble, when we get out into the real world, we can take these skills, right, and use them to bless the world, further yourself, grow yourself, and just really just be excited about your life. See, a person with imposter syndrome, they get so wrapped up in the, am I doing a good enough job? And is today the day they'll find out that I don't know exactly what I'm doing? We get so wrapped up in that, we can't really enjoy the fact that we really are doing a good job. We can't enjoy the job that we're doing. We can't enjoy the success. In fact, it looks like this. Whoops. Oh, I don't want to go through the quiz. We kind of went through it. Okay. Bad news, good news. You don't cure it, you control it. Sorry, I'm just jumping ahead because I wanted to not repeat a lot of content. Okay. Oh, this is something I want you guys to have a free gift. I have developed 5 strategies to overcome imposter syndrome, and I call it the fraud-free framework. And because I don't have notes or a handout for you, if you take a picture of this QR code, it'll send you to my website where you can input your email address, and you'll immediately get a PDF of, it's an infographic that has these 5 strategies. Now, I'm not going to go through all 5 of them because we just don't have time. I've created workshop, like long full-day workshops. I've got other resources. I wrote a book about it, but I at least want you to have the really cool infographic because I'm very proud of my daughter, a graphic designer. She helped me design it. So if for anything, just, let a mama's heart be proud. Anyway, strategy number 1 is to recognize the imposter syndrome. It's to recognize the symptoms. Now, the symptoms, there's 6 of them, and they all happen on something called the imposter cycle, which is actually symptom number 1. The cycle itself, the existence, the presence of this cycle is the first symptoms, and the other ones kind of appear along the other symptoms. So let's talk about these symptoms. The reason you need to know the symptoms is that you can't battle an enemy unless you recognize it. So the 6 symptoms is, first of all, is the imposter cycle. And the imposter cycle looks like this. Suppose, and let's use a Toastmaster example. Suppose you are a brand new area director. I just dated myself, old school title for the current job. Suppose you're a new area director, right? And you step into day 1 of your area director year, which is coming up here soon, 1st of June, or is it July? 1st of July. And you think to yourself, wow, I really want to do a good job. I'm not exactly sure the best way to start. Now, a person with imposter syndrome will face this task one of 2 ways. The first way is that they will over-prepare. They will do everything possible to avoid failure. They will have meetings, send out memos, gather people, get opinions, do research, read on the internet, look at old videos. They'll do everything possible to guarantee that they are a success. They over-prepare. The second way a person with imposter syndrome may approach this new task is they think, not really sure exactly how to start, so I simply won't. They procrastinate. It's almost the opposite of the overachiever. It's the procrastinator. They wait as long as they can until, and they'll find many other things to do instead. Busy work, non-productive work. They'll feel like they're getting something done, but it's really not accomplishing the goal. And they'll do that for as long as they can until they either are running out of time, they have to hit a deadline, or somebody comes to them and says, so, hey, how's that project coming? And you freak out. You freak out. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's pretty spectacular, but then you jump into action and you look a lot like the over-preparer. You are 24/7 doing everything you can, as much as you can in a tiny amount of time to get the job done. And the thing is that it doesn't matter whether you are an over-preparer or a procrastinator, the result is exactly the same. It's amazing. You exceed expectations. You knock it out of the park. People are astounded. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. How did we totally put the right person in the job? Yeah, you are the man. You are awesome. Way to go, girl. I mean, it's just celebration and applause. And everybody's excited. And you breathe a sigh of relief. But it's not because you did a good job. It's because you thought, phew, that was close. They almost figured out I really didn't know exactly what I was doing. But that relief doesn't last long, because then you're stressed out, because guess what? Tomorrow is another project, or tomorrow is another assignment, or another role, or another day, whatever it is. The cycle continues. So it looks like this. You have a new project. You either over prepare or procrastinate. You have a successful outcome. Everybody's excited, praise and recognition. You relax, then you stress, and you start it all over again. The other symptoms, as I said, all show up at some place in this cycle. The key then is to break the cycle, disrupt the cycle. And you do that by knowing whether or not you are, do that by knowing where you are on the cycle. So let's go back to the chat. Let me ask this question. Have you, no, I want to ask it in a way, I don't want anybody to be embarrassed. Have you ever either procrastinated or over prepared? Yes or no? No Zoom, no chat bombing. Just go ahead. Give me the answer. Yes or no? Have you ever? Yes. Over prepared or procrastinate? Oops. I want to get, there we go. There's the chat. Over, oh, yes, 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 yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, Denise says, I'm not a procrastinator. Ooh, cool. I like that. See, here's the deal. A lot of people say, well, sometimes I procrastinate and sometimes I over prepare. A lot of times the difference is related to how much familiarity you have with the task. People that have less familiarity with the task will tend to over prepare. People that have a sort of a measure of familiarity with the task will tend to procrastinate, because they think they think they could at least get something done, and it's kind of a self-sabotage. But anyway, so let me ask another question then. If I go back to that cycle, here's a question that is really indicative of probably the intensity of whether or not you struggle with imposter syndrome. Have you ever been complimented on something, but in the back of your mind dismissed the compliment? In other words, has anybody said to you, wow, you did a great job, but inside you say, oh, I don't know if I agree? Yes or no? Let's see what that one says. Yeah. Oh, almost unanimous. Wow. Oh, I'm sorry, Denise, I'll repeat the question. Have you ever, has somebody ever complimented you on a job done, a job well done, and you, in the back of your mind, think, I really didn't do it that well? See, a person with imposter syndrome often is, for one thing, not satisfied with the job that they did, because they always think, well, I could have done it better. If only I had more time. If only I had more resources. If only I, was more, smarter, richer, more. If there was more, I could have done it better. So that when somebody compliments you, you kind of don't believe them. You dismiss the praise. So Denise says, no, that's good. That's excellent. Another question then, have you ever, no, I'm not going to ask that question because I want to get back to, I want to head into more of this content. Okay, let's keep moving on. Another symptom, and I'm going to blast through these very quickly. I'm going to move you folks out of the way, move you down here. Okay, is the person who's the perfectionist. I mentioned this. This is the person who has to do everything perfectly. A third symptom is the superhero. This is the person who not just does it perfectly, but does it alone. They do not delegate. They do not ask for help. There's something in them that says, well, if I really was as smart as everybody thinks I am, I shouldn't have to ask for help. So let me ask you a question in the chat. Is it hard or easy for you to ask for help? Hard or easy for you to ask for help? Awesome. I see a few hearts and an easy now, a couple of easies. I call those people control freaks. Yeah, there's a measure of that. Absolutely. Easier. I love that. Easier. That shows progress. That's fabulous. Denise, I asked for help. That's awesome. You know what? There's no shame in asking for help. There's no shame in saying, I don't know. Not only do I need help, but I don't know. So I need to know. I need your help so that I can know. No shame in it. Another symptom is the use of charm, insight, or humor. And this is my go-to. This is what I do a lot. Sometimes we will throw out funny lines. And this is, I'll personalize it. Sometimes I will throw out funny lines because if I keep them laughing, they won't know that I'm not as smart as they think I am. Because sometimes it's more fun, it's more effective for me for them to think I'm charming and instead of smart, or charming instead of uninformed. It's like if I keep them laughing, it's like a deflection. It's one of my strategies. I confess it right here. I'm guilty as charged. Another symptom is the fear of failure. None of us want to fail. None of us wake up and say, today I will fail. But the person with imposter syndrome goes to Herculean efforts to avoid failure. Again, as demonstrated by the over-preparing, overworking syndrome. But here's the cool, or the not cool thing, interesting thing. Symptom number 6, close cousin, is the fear of success. We often camouflage it as a fear of failure, but it really is a fear of success. When somebody says, no, I can't give it my all, so I'm just not going to do it. And they think, well, I'm afraid of failing, so I'm just not going to do it. The truth is, you're not afraid of failing. You're afraid of having to repeat success when you get it. And that is destructive. You think to yourself, well, if I am successful, I'm going to have to perpetuate it. Now I'm going to have to live up to a new standard. How will it change my relationships? When I was promoted to the facility manager at the Propulsion Systems Lab, I was keenly aware of how fearful I was, how it was. Now I was kind of, I had my coworkers and now I was above them. And I thought, how is this going to change my relationship with them? How will they view me? Will they respect me? Will they still be my friends? Will they just like me? So sometimes we hold ourselves back from success because we fear it will change too many things in our world, or we're going to have to perpetuate it. And that sounds exhausting. I will confess that's part of the reason why I have not stepped into a trio role. The bigger reason is that I like to compete. I'm kind of a contest junkie, but I use that as an excuse. Sometimes I think, I don't know, it's just, can I do it for a whole year? Do I have the stamina to do it for a year? And I have to bring myself back and say, it's Toastmasters. It's Toastmasters. Why not try? The journey of self-discovery and self-improvement is far and away bigger and better than the stress of, can I do it for a year? Yeah, you can do it for a year. It's Toastmasters. So, okay, so those are the symptoms. Strategy number 2. Now that you know the symptoms, this is the nuts and bolts. This is the how-to. I call this strategy reverse it. And the way you do it, it's taken, excuse me, it's taken from the pages of psychology. Now, I'm not a psychologist, but I know that there are psychological principles and strategies to help people untangle their thinking. The imposter syndrome happens up here. It is a thought process distortion. So let's use some strategies to undistort the distortion. And this is my 3-step strategy. I call it the Tri-C approach. no magic to the title. It just happens that all 3 steps start with the letter C. Ha! What are you, a rocket scientist? Well, actually, yes, I am. So there's that. So first step is to capture the thought. Now, what I mean by this is, now that you know the symptoms, and I know I blasted through them kind of quickly. Now that you know the symptoms, though, you can kind of catch yourself when you're exhibiting a symptom. So you're going to capture that moment. You're going to capture that thought. You're going to say, oh, there I go. I am starting to freak out and over prepare. It's my perfectionist kicking in. You capture that, right? And then you cross-examine it. You take that moment, you take that thought, that assumption, that idea, you put it on the witness stand and you drill down to find out the truth. Where did that thought come from? Find the evidence that either supports it or refutes it. In other words, oh my gosh, I have to be perfect. If I'm not perfect, they'll think I'm stupid. Oh, hold on, capture that. Let's talk about that. Why do you have to be perfect? Where did that come from? Did it come from your childhood? Did it come from a bad experience of not being perfect? Is it really true that lack of perfection equals ignorance? Is it really true? No, it's not true. So, drill down, ask yourself the tough questions, find the evidence, and get down to the question, what would happen if I chose to act in opposition to that? What would happen if I stopped over preparing? Really, what's the worst that could happen? Especially in Toastmasters, because remember, it's just Toastmasters. So practice this. So cross-examine it and get down to that last question. What would happen if I chose to act in opposition? And then you do it. You counter it. You act in opposition. You think, okay, fine. I'm done preparing. I'm going to give myself 2 hours to prepare. That's all I have. I'm not going to lose sleep. I'm not going to alienate my family and friends. I'm not going to make a pest of myself. I'm just going to stop. You just counter it and then see what happens. Now, I have a great example, and I don't want to bore you with the whole entire story, but very briefly, I'm a huge college football fan, and I have a dear friend of mine who is a huge expert, not just an expert, that's putting it lightly. He is an encyclopedic source of all things related to Ohio State University football. He's an ESPN resource. He's a game day commentator, radio commentator. He is sought out by everybody. He's the Ohio State historian. He's a dear friend of mine. He asked me to co-author a book about Ohio State football with him. Now, I did not go to Ohio State. I went to the University of Notre Dame. We're not even in the same sphere. I mean, they're Big Ten, Notre Dame is independent. And I remember thinking, oh, I can't do that. First of all, I don't know anything about Ohio State. Secondly, what are my Notre Dame friends going to say? And thirdly, why is he asking me? Is he just asking me because he thinks I'm cute? Is that, So I kind of had to stop and think of those things. I had to do this, see a pro. I captured it. What are my Notre Dame friends going to think if I do this? Who cares? Oh, wait, the Ohio State football coach at the time was a man named Urban Meyer, used to coach at Notre Dame. Hey, if he can do it, I can do it. So, okay, eliminate that one. Let's see. I don't know anything about Ohio State football. True, but I don't have to. That's Jack's job, my co-author. He's the expert. I'm just the wordsmither. I'm skilled at that. That's one of my ninja skills is writing and editing and fluffing and researching. I could add texture to his content. And then the third part was, did he ask me just because I was cute? Well, I'm kind of cute, but that's not why he asked me. He certainly is not going to put his reputation on the line just because he thinks I'm cute. That was so irrational. He asked me because he trusted me and he valued my skills and he saw it as great partnering. And so I countered it and I said, yes, let's do it. And it took us 2 years to write the book. And a few years ago, oops, I don't have time for that. Launched a book about Ohio State football, history book about Ohio State football, Buckeye Reflections, available on Amazon and in your local Barnes and Noble store. Well, local if you live in Columbus, Ohio. So there's that. All that to say, this 3-step strategy works. You arrest that thought, you capture that thought, you cross-examine it, and then you counter it. Guaranteed it can change. So anytime you find yourself in a symptom of the imposter syndrome, slow down, breathe, capture that thought, find the data to support it, cross-examine it, and then counter it. Act in accordance to the answer to that question. What would happen if I acted in opposition? Alrighty, hang on a second. How do I unsure? You know what? I need my glasses. All right, I'm going to stop my share here. And I can't find how to stop share. I see a new, oh, here it is. Sorry. There we go. Okay. Now, I want to ask you folks. I'm running out of time. Here's what I want to ask you. First of all, has this been helpful? Good. I see heads nodding, so that's awesome. Now that I only went through 2 strategies, I have 3 more. The third strategy is my second strategy there about controlling your thinking using that Tri-C method. That all happens kind of up here, right? It's all internal thought process. My third strategy is about how you interact with people. It is about truly embracing the value of your skills, your talents, and your abilities. Now, people with imposter syndrome often confuse it with a lack of confidence. It is not a lack of confidence. People with imposter syndrome, as I said before, they are skilled, rewarded, awarded, degreed, credentialed, revered, celebrated. They got it going on. It took a measure of confidence to get to that point. It took confidence to go to that school, take that class, show up for the exam, get the job interview, show up for the job, call the meeting. There is a measure of confidence. So it's not a lack of confidence. It's a limit of confidence. In other words, you look back at your history and you think, wow, that's a great history, but what got me here will not take me there, will not take me any further. And I'm going to challenge you on that. Because it's not just skills. Yeah, you're gonna get to a point where your skills will be limited. You just need to learn more to do more, right? And it takes time to learn. But what really is going to propel you is when you understand the value of your character traits. Are you resilient? Do you play well with others? Are you positive? Are you creative? Are you innovative? Are you curious? Do you have a strong work ethic? Do you stick to a job until it's done? Are you positive and optimistic? I think I said that already. The character traits that accompany confidence, those will carry you further when you reach the limit of your confidence. So I challenge you to really think back, not just at your skills, but what are your character traits? Within Toastmasters, it is your willingness to raise your hand, step up and take a challenge. It is your willingness to look around you and get along with people that are very different from you. And in some cases, kind of are irritating to you. I mean, we all have them in our clubs, the ones that I call them EGR, people that are extra grace required. You just got to smile and be nice because sometimes they just might bug you. They're everywhere. It's not just in Toastmasters, it's everywhere. So it's your ability to do that. Those character traits will help even further silence that imposter voice. So that's, you know what, I don't want to overstay my welcome here. I have 2 more strategies, but if you go to my website at maureenz.com and you download that infographic, you'll see what those other 2 strategies are. I also have other resources on my website. I wrote a book about the topic that I cannot seem to lay my hands on right now, because my desk is a mess and I lost it someplace. I also have an video program that you can get through by way of email. I call it the fraud-free framework. So thank you, folks. I hope this was helpful. Now I'm going to have you give me a thumbs up if you thought it was helpful. Sweet. Thank you so much for letting me be here. And just remember that when you utter that hiccup heard round the world, do not let the voice of the imposter say you've been found out. It just is a signal to you that you have an opportunity to push through and do amazing things. So thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. I am so happy that we were able to meet tonight and that we were able to get to the end. What great strategies you showed us. And to reiterate, it's maureenz.com.
Yep, maureenz.com. Oh, sorry, Canadians, Maureen Z, sorry.
Yes, excellent. Maureen, will you be able to stay a few minutes if anybody had questions?
Sure.
Wonderful. And to find more information, the email is all available at that website for Maureen. She gave us a great challenge about the skills and character traits to further silence that voice. Thank you very much, Maureen. And we're just going to leave it open if somebody would like to ask a question. Anybody have a question for Maureen? I know everybody's just saying, yeah. Great workshop, by the way. Just going to put it down on the chat if everybody's busy typing away. Oh, it's okay. You can actually, let me just turn them able to unmute yourself. If you'd like to ask a question, go ahead. Austin, I see you might have a question there. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm pondering on that while also I appear to be having an issue getting my email sent over for that infographic. But I suppose in my mind, as you pointed out, we get stuck in that cycle, and then to counter it, that try-C method, I'm finding myself, I've begun to identify it over the last couple of years. I finally managed to begin being aware of it, but it's the counter to it and appreciating the data when you do find it that I still find a bit difficult myself. What was the biggest, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this properly, excuse me. Before identifying the try-C method, I suppose, what was your biggest challenge with that appreciation and confidence in the data?
Do you mean like when somebody complimented me, for example? When you say appreciation? I'm not sure what you mean.
That's not quite. I suppose it's when you're going into those moments of, like, when you became the facility manager, and so that those moments of intense change, and so you're finding that data that would justify, well, I got myself here, and so then acting on that data, I should presumably continue I should be able to feel confident enough then to overcome those limits based on the traits of my character that got me there to continue moving forward. But I found I still perhaps haven't been able to feel that crossing of the limits with the character traits that I do have. Is that perhaps then, to rephrase my question, have I misidentified what my true traits are?
Well, I think one of the things that I didn't get into, and I think I hope this helped you, even though this conversation goes on in our head, the negative conversation, and then you're looking at your data and you're trying to talk yourself out of it. A big component of that also is verbalizing it to other people. Not just simply saying, I feel like a phony, I feel like a fake, and woe is me, but simply saying, wow, this is a challenge for me, or gosh, I'm a little nervous about this. And having somebody come alongside of you to build into your belief. Now, we might not believe it at first, but there is something that happens when we dismiss somebody else's confidence in us. We take a gift away from them. We further diminish ourselves. Why not instead choose to ride their belief, even if it's just for a short time, and say, wow, they think I can do it. I don't want to think that they're lying, because they're not. So why not say, okay, if they think I can do it, then I'm going to believe them. I may not believe that I can do it, but I'm going to believe them. I'm going to believe that they think I can do it. And I'm going to ride along that for a minute. And that parallel to that other conversation that is looking at the data. So you've got the internal conversation, you've got the external confirmation that will further propel you to that counteract, that the ability to step into and do something that could scare you or intimidate you or rob you of joy. And I don't know if that answers the question, but I think that having that other element of having somebody alongside of you speaking into your life is really important.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Did that even come close to answering your question?
It did. It certainly did come close. I still think perhaps, and it's likely in my delivery of the question and the convolution that came with that, pardon me, but I understood where you're getting at, and I think it would help in that regard as well. I think I'll have to put a little bit more thought into what my original question was and how to best communicate that. But I did get some value out of your answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Jeffrey, I see you have a question.
Yeah, I have. Hello, Maureen. Thank you for taking the time, but I am confident in what I do. I'm very confident about the job I do. I have a really hard time taking credit. I analyze myself very harsh. I don't like giving myself credit unless I've exceeded my goals and my plans and the plans I have for my team. So when I get told, oh yeah, y'all did, Jeffrey, you did a great job. I was like, oh, my team did a great job. I don't never just step up and take credit myself. I have been told by one of my bosses that I need to take ownership of the successes that I've had in my department.
Yeah, this is.
But I still can't.
This is classic. Let me ask you another question then. So if your team, when somebody says you did a great job, you don't want to take credit for it, and you say, the team did a great job. But if you failed,
then it's my fault.
There you go. Why is that? Why do we internalize failure and externalize success? What's the difference? It comes down to, it makes us feel better. And that can't be the goal. It can't be the goal just to feel better. We externalize success. What we need to do is we need to reverse it. We need to internalize the success and externalize the failure. In other words, claim the pieces of the success that are rightly yours, because you did do certain things to make it happen. You did organize, you did keep things on schedule, you did delegate. There are definite things that you did, and you need to own that. And likewise, if things failed, it could very well be that there were external things. The vendor didn't come through, or somebody, undermined the project, or simply did not have the time to do it. You can't, create time out of nothing. So there are external factors that contribute to failure. Don't mix it up. Don't mix it up. Internalize the success, externalize the failure. And do not think that it's a matter of pride by saying, oh no, it was nothing. Because you're robbing people of the gift of giving you a compliment. Because then they feel like, well, why did I even bother saying anything? He just took it, rolled it up and wadded it and threw it away. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question off the tail end of Jeffrey's? I'm wondering if in our attempt to defer the compliment for a job well done in terms of pushing it off to someone else, are we not only are we robbing those people of the opportunity to compliment us, but are we not also robbing ourselves of the opportunity of getting a lift in confidence?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's people are giving you a gift, except gifts are good. Gifts are
Okay.
made to make you feel
Okay.
lifted.
So even if you're not necessarily feeling 100% deserving of the compliment, can you, through continuous thank you and being gracious by accepting the compliment, do you get there? Is it just
Oh, yeah, I think so. And I
Mhm.
think too, have you ever heard of the term, the curse of knowledge?
I have not.
Okay, the curse of knowledge is a term that means you're so close to your expertise that it's just so natural to you. It just comes second nature to you. But yet somebody looking on the outside is so awed and so enamored, like, wow, that's so amazing that you could, and you're like, what are you talking about? I do this every day. And so that sets us up too to dismiss the compliments, because you're like, why do you think that's awesome? Duh. I mean, doesn't everybody know this? It's the curse of knowledge. No, not everybody does know this. And so we have to kind of be aware of that and just simply be humble and gracious and receive it as the gift for which it was intended. And it's got nothing to do with a measure of our expertise. It's just relative to them. They're just so flippin' impressed. Enjoy that moment. It's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rita, and thank you, Jeffrey. Russell, is that a question that I see you might be having?
No question.
Okay, wonderful. Anybody else have any questions for Maureen? Maureen, I must admit, based on the last session, I actually sunk quite deep of feeling that I failed the group on the episode. So I'm glad that we were able to have this workshop
Okay,
again.
let's reframe that though. There were
Yes.
things out of your control. You can't
Yes.
own things that you externalize the failure, do not internalize it.
Yes, and I was grateful that I had a fellow Toastmaster that able to bring me out and kind of say, well, no, not actually. That was my voice of reason right beside me. So actually on the phone, but it does help. It definitely does help if you do find somebody to be that feedback that you're not actually listening to your own
And
voice.
don't you have a great story to tell now?
I do.
You have to really edit it, but you know.
Oh, I just pressed delete and it was gone. Does anybody else have any more questions for Maureen? Denise, do you have any questions for Maureen?
No, except thank you.
You're welcome.
As far as I was concerned, you could go through the whole presentation again, because after the last episode, who's going to remember it anyway? So, we would need the refresher course. And Jeffrey, pat yourself on the back for a job well done. Stop kicking yourself and start saying, not I can't do it. I know I can do it. I did it.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Denise. Margaret, do you have any questions?
I'm just really curious about pushing your envelope, the book that you wrote. Would you mind elaborating a little bit?
Sure. I'm looking. Oh, I see it on my bookshelf. Hang on. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's hang on, here we go. Pushing Your Envelope is the book that I wrote about imposter syndrome. when I was with NASA, NASA is, we're big on acronyms and technical phrases. So PYE was something that we talked about, pushing your envelope. It's an aeronautics term for basically doing more than you think you can do. And the imposter syndrome limits you from doing more than you think you can do. So I created this. It describes the strategies that I went through. I wrote this book probably, I don't know, 2 years ago. It's available on Amazon, as well as, I've got a whole bunch of them here in my living room. But yeah, it goes through the strategies, and it just is a great tool to help you battle your own imposter voice.
I personally find it easier to interact with print, because my auditory memory isn't that great. Whereas with a book, I can highlight and think about and do all of that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
That was a great question, Margaret. I believe, is that you, Frederica, in that TM role over there? Do you have any questions for Maureen? While she's thinking about that, John, do you have any questions? Looks like everybody's writing down a copious amount of notes. And what about Sinra? No? Oh, yes, you do have some questions. Go
No,
ahead.
no questions yet.
Excellent. And there will be a recording on YouTube. You will be sent the link. And Maureen, I would love to also send any information of the books that you've sent. So if you could pass that to me, I'd like to pass that on to the rest of the group as well.
All right, I'll put the name of the book in the
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, I need my glasses.
Yes, we do all need these
Oh my
once in a
gosh.
while, don't we? Any other questions
I need
for
mine
Maureen?
all the time. We don't have a choice.
Pushing your envelope or envelope, depends on what kind of place of the country you're from. Thank you very much for that. And again, it's Maureen Zappala.
Zapala.
No, it's MaureenZ.com.
Yep.
That's the website. Perfect. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming tonight. Like I said, our next workshop is Evaluate to Motivate on Monday at 7 o'clock. And on May 27th, the Mars workshop, Mastering Mentorship, Membership, and Retention Successfully. And that starts at 6:30 with Feng Shui, Abhijit Joshi, Danielle Lacey, and Nihal Tana. Thank you, everybody. Have yourself a great night.